Hello and welcome. So since I've started YouTube, people have often seen my tattoos creeping out of my sleeves and have asked me to make videos showing you my tattoos, and my answer has often been
never.
But I've recently decided why the hell not, because at least there is a bit of a message I could share behind my tattoos, and that is namely why I believe that people should not get tattooed when they're young. I got my first tattoo when I was almost 17. I had found a tattoo artist who I communicated with through Facebook, and I basically told him that I really wanted to get some tattoo work done, but that I was worried because I lost my ID and I didn't have anything to verify my age, as you have to be 18 or else have parental consent to get tattoos. And he basically assured me, no worries, just come in and I'll handle it, and we don't need your ID, it'll be fine. And so I ended up getting my tattoo here when I was 16, almost 17, and after I turned 17, I started my sleeve. Then shortly after that, I got a few more. I got one up here, and I got one along here, and my ribs, and so on. Over the years, what I've come to find is that all of my tattoos, except for one, I got when I was very young, very immature, very emotional, and very much not the person I am now. So that is to say, when I got my tattoos, I failed to take account of the fact that if you continue along your trajectory as a human being, you will continue along a certain trajectory of growth and change and development. And in that process, at least for me, I have come out the other end not being the person I was when I was that age. I have changed a great deal. And so the number one mistake I made when I got my tattoos was thinking that I'd be the same forever, thinking that I'd have all the same feelings forever, thinking that I'd want all the same things forever, thinking a lot of things would just stay the same. But I failed to take account of the fact that staying the same is not the nature of the world in any capacity. The very existential structure of our being, in my opinion, is continual change. I mean, from our bodies to our mental lives, everything, in my opinion, is in an ongoing state of change. And so now, being 26 and heavily tattooed, I have to live with the reality that all of the markings I've put all over my body are representative of who I was at a certain place in time, and not at all representative necessarily of the person I am at this point in time. And so it is for that reason that in all of my videos, I do not show my tattoos because I don't want to. They're not who I am, they don't represent who I am, I don't like the picture of me they put forward, as I just don't feel they're reflective of myself. They're reflective of an old self. And so that is the main reason for why I believe that people should not get tattooed when they're young. And that is why there is that age restriction in place. Although I would argue that even at that age, I doubt that most people will still be who they are 10 years later after they're 18. But then again, that might not always be the case. I think there are some tattoos, some things with some meanings that you might want to keep with you forever, or that might be important to you forever, or that might evolve with you in the future. So for example, this tattoo I got came to evolve with me over time. If anything, I found there was more profundity in its meaning over time and with my own development, and it came to mean more. I don't know how to describe it. So my point is, as I said, that I do think there can be some tattoos that you can get that have such meaning that they will stay with you over time and that they'll continue to be valuable. But I just don't think that's always the case, and I think if I were to give advice to a younger self or younger people out there considering getting tattoos, I would say to err on the side of caution. If you're going to get tattooed, get something very small, get something very meaningful, and something that's very likely to still mean something to you 10 years down the road. And so I will offer two more or less superficial other reasons, secondary reasons I've come to find over the years for why I also don't think one should get tattooed young. First of which is that one thing that drives me crazy is I'm a very particular sort of person. I like my visual aesthetic representation to match in my clothes. It actually gives me a bit of a physical irritation when something doesn't match. I know that sounds really silly, but it really bothers me. I've always been that way. It gives me anxiety to be otherwise. And so another reason why I don't like wearing short sleeves is I cannot stand the color clashing of certain colors with my tattoos. I feel if I am to wear a short sleeve, I must always wear a neutral color to appear somewhat visually, aesthetically in match. And it's very annoying. It's very annoying to feel like you can't wear things you want to wear because you don't like colors clashing, or you don't like the representation of you it puts forward. It's just generally very irritating to be constricted in that way, and so I do feel for the rest of my life that for the most part, unless I'm with people that I'm very comfortable with or my best friends, I'm always confined to wearing a long sleeve shirt. That's truly how I feel. I mean, I know it's only a matter of perception, and if I were to think otherwise, I could do otherwise, but I don't feel otherwise, and therefore I won't do otherwise. So I will, unless I have my tattoos removed, live out the rest of my days in a long sleeve shirt. And the last reason I'll give, which is semi-superficial, but maybe a little bit less superficial than the reason I've just given, is I do feel that in terms of dating, I do feel that I have very much so constricted my dating pool by being heavily tattooed. I do feel like if I were on a dating app, which yes, I have done recently, I have to put a picture of me and my tattoos there so that I don't mislead anyone into thinking that I'm like normal when in fact I have a bit of a defect. So I feel that somewhat in my dating searches I must look for someone else with tattoos also, so that me having tattoos is okay. See, that could just be a weird me thing, but I just feel like the average or norm for most people is not the desire for a heavily tattooed female, and so that's unfortunate. So you might like that, you might agree with that reasoning, you might not, you might want to think that people can look past those things, and maybe they can, but I almost feel bad to even make a partner have to look past that sort of thing. I don't know how to explain it. It's a weird feeling, but it's just a lot of constrictions. To sum up then, my number one reason for why you should not get tattoos when you're young is of course that you won't be that person forever. I sincerely doubt you will. And the second reason is that it can also be very irritating and restricting when you realize these former things in line with how you can dress in the world every day, or how you feel comfortable or want to present yourself. And of course, lastly, as I said, it can be a hindrance in terms of your self-confidence and options when it comes to finding a partner. Although these reasons for why you shouldn't get tattooed when you're young might not be meaningful or relevant to everyone, they are my conclusions and my feelings for having been a relatively heavily tattooed person for the past 10 years of my relatively young life. And so the reason I share this video with you is because if I could go back to my 16-year-old self on the day I was going to get my tattoo, I would shake her down and tell her the things I've said in this video and not let her get tattoos. So my only hope in making this video is that it may be helpful to someone somewhere out there considering getting a tattoo when they might be just a little too young to do so and not fully thinking it through. And if there's anyone out there like me who is heavily tattooed, and particularly heavily tattooed and female, I would also just like to say not to be too discouraged if you feel the way that I feel. I mean, I had to deal with it and grapple with it and eventually admit to myself, that I was in fact unhappy with my choices, and that can be embarrassing, and it can be something that you don't want to admit. It can be something you might even be ashamed of. But the fact is that if you did it, you did it, and there's virtually nothing you can do about it other than save up to get tattoo removal if that's what you want. And I think the best mentality to have about it, if you regret it, if you're ashamed of it, is to just accept it. It is what it is, and there are some steps you might be able to take, and you should just accept yourself and take the steps that you believe you can take. But don't be ashamed to admit you're ashamed. Just be who you are and say how you feel, because those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter. Dr. Seuss.